So the anti-malaria drug is very important for pregnant women during pregnancy, of course. But sometimes some pregnant women are not allowed to take these kind of drugs. If you've ever been told that you are not allowed to take the anti-malaria drug in pregnancy, or if ever been told that you have something called the G6PD defect, then grab a seat and join me today on Midwife's Diary and let's discuss this further. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Evelyn and I'm a registered midwife. This is Midwife's Diary. On Midwife's Diary we talk about everything maternal and newborn care. Guess what? Today we are talking about something called G6PD deficiency. And with me today I have a very special guest. So I'll let him introduce himself and then we get into the whole conversation.
Thank you very much, Evelyn.
You're welcome.
I'm Emmanuel Jaban. I'm a medical doctor. Evelyn is my co-worker, and I'm very happy to be on the channel. Thank you.
Okay. Ima, thank you so much for coming. Actually, you are the first doctor on my channel.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today, let's get into the whole video. We are talking about G6PD deficiency.
Okay.
So first of all, myself and my audience, we would like to know what G6PD is, and then we get to know what G6PD deficiency is.
Okay. So, thank you. G6PD, it's, I would say, an acronym for Glucose-6-Phosphate Dehydrogenase.
Okay.
Now, that's a very long name, right?
Yeah.
So, what exactly is it, right? So, it's an enzyme,
Okay.
simple and short. So, what enzymes do is that, your body, there's a lot of reactions. There's a lot of things going on in your body, right?
Yeah.
For example, when you eat, it has to be broken down before you're able to get the energy that you need from the food, right? So this G6PD, the long name I mentioned, right?
Okay.
That enzyme helps in one of these processes that go on in your body.
So you're saying that G6PD helps with a process in our body.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, maybe if you can throw more light on the process just a little, and then let me know the importance of this whole process in my body, then I get to know the actual function of this whole G6PD in my body, like the importance in my body.
Okay, so it's a little bit complicated, but I'll try as much as possible to make it very simple for your for your viewers.
Okay.
So the process that this enzyme helps, okay, is how do I put it? The end product of that process.
Mm-hmm.
What makes this SPD very important is the end product of the process.
Of the process that
I
it
don't want
helps.
to go into details of the process because
Okay.
you might. So the end product is what we call reduced glutathione.
Okay.
So that's another word.
So what does this?
What that reduced glutathione do, okay, is help fight, let me put it that way, certain substances
Okay.
that will attack your cells.
Your cells, your body
Yes.
cells.
Your body cells in general,
Okay.
including your blood cells.
Okay. Which blood
Okay.
cells?
Your red blood cells.
Red blood cells.
Yes.
Okay.
But, as you are talking about G6PD, you are going to talk about red blood cells a lot. Now, the reason why G6PD is important in red blood cells is that other cells have other means of getting that reduced glutathione.
Oh, okay.
But in red blood cells, the process that is facilitated by this G6PD is the only means of getting the reduced glutathione.
That will help.
That will help fight
Okay.
those substances that will attack that cell.
Okay, so you keep talking about red blood cell. What is red blood cell?
Okay, so blood is red, right?
Okay.
You know blood is red.
Yeah.
So simply put, I'll say red blood cells are the components of blood that make blood red.
Okay.
From the name, right?
Okay.
So it is the part of your blood. Okay, the blood, as you see, there has a lot of things inside of it.
So it's not
Okay.
just it's fluid. So probably I would think
it's like soup.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in soup, right?
Okay.
So there's meat, pepper, but sometimes you don't see those constituents of the soup. So red blood cell is also in the blood, right?
Okay.
And it's the part of the blood that carries oxygen.
Okay.
So most of the time when you go to the hospital and we say that, oh, maybe umoja swatia, most of the time we are talking about the component of the red blood cell, like
the components of the red blood cell. Okay, fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now that we've explained G6PD, we've explained its function, and then we know how important it is now to the red blood cell, which is a component of the blood. What is G6PD deficiency then?
So, yes, we've understood that G6PD is an enzyme, right? And it helps you to produce glutathione, right? Which is very important for your red blood cells.
Yeah.
Right. So when someone has this enzyme in lower amounts, or the person doesn't have the enzyme at all,
Okay.
we say that this person is G6PD deficient. Do you get it? So we can have varying degrees of the deficiency.
Okay.
So I'm sure maybe you've heard someone say partial defect,
and then
full defect.
Okay.
That is where it comes from.
Okay. Okay.
And even with someone with a full defect, the manifestation or the presentation can vary. Okay, so we have someone with very severe form of it, and someone, although full defect, is not that severe.
Okay.
So that is G6PD deficiency.
Okay. How will I get G6PD? Is it through an infection, or how do I get G6PD?
Okay. So first of all, you are born with it.
Okay.
Okay. So you get it from your parents.
Okay.
So
and my parents are also born with it?
Yes, they're also born with it.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want me to go into the origins of it, it's just like sickle cell. People say that it offers protection against malaria.
Okay.
You know that people who are AS,
okay,
literature has shown that they are protected against malaria. The same with G6PD. People who are G6PD are thought to be protected against malaria. Okay. So what happens is that it is thought that because of our climate. So one thing I also didn't say is that it is common in people of African origin, and then people of Asian origin. Okay. So people try to theorize that because of our climate, because of where we find ourselves, our bodies try to adapt to environment. Okay. So because of our exposure to malaria, right, mosquitoes and all of that, our body tried to protect us against that malaria. So that's how come we got G6PD. So our genes, began to change to suit our environment. Okay. Do you get it? So that is like the origin, like the genesis of G6PD. It's a theory, by the way. So it's in your genes, and you pass it on to your children.
So then, if I have G6PD, this deficiency, and now I know that it is caused by my mom will either give it to me, or listen, my father will either give it to me. Okay. What's the significance of it? Like, why are we even talking about it?
Okay, thank you. So, G6PD, when you lack that enzyme, you can present clinically. There's an effect. Okay, I already told you that the glutathione produced from the reaction that's
the process
very good. That glutathione protects your cells. Okay. In all cells. Okay. But it makes it very important in red blood cells because they don't have other means of producing the glutathione
to protect themselves.
So other cells, other body cells, they don't even have the defect. They have other ways of getting the glutathione. So, but in your red blood cells, the process that is facilitated by this G6PD enzyme is the only way for them to get glutathione. Do you get it? So if you are defective, that means that the glutathione levels are going to drop. So when these substances that attack the cells come, you don't have enough glutathione to fight for you. Do you understand? So what will happen is that they will go ahead and then attack the cells, and they begin to break down. So you get what we call hemolytic anemia. So I don't know. So what is hemolytic anemia? So it's anemia. When we say anemia, it means umoja of form.
Moja swati.
What I say, umoja of form. And I told you that red blood cells are in the blood. So if they are broken down, it will reduce. Do you understand? So umoja of form, basically. Because hemolytic just means breaking down. So it means anemia you got as a result of your blood cells breaking down. That's hemolytic anemia.
Okay. What should I do to protect myself, or what can I do about it? Is there anything I can do about it to reduce this effect or something?
Okay. So I think I should have said this from the beginning. When you have G6PD, you can have a normal life.
Okay.
Okay, you can have a normal life, depending on the severity. But generally, most people are asymptomatic. That means that they don't have any.
They don't show anything.
They don't show anything. Yeah.
I think I've seen a couple of women like that.
So you are just like anybody else. Okay. So you begin to get problems when you are exposed to certain triggers.
Okay.
So the triggers are, let me say, grouped into three.
Okay.
Basically, three types of triggers. Okay. So we have certain drugs. Okay. Certain foods, and then infections.
Okay.
Okay, when you are exposed to some of these things, there is a trigger, and then your blood cells begin to break down. You understand? So as an individual, like your question, what you can do is very simple. Avoid the triggers.
Okay. So then now we are into the triggers. So what are these triggers? Like, let's take them one after the other. The infections, the drugs, and then the foods. What are they, so that I can at least protect myself from it?
Okay, so let's start with the drugs.
Okay.
Okay, so there are a number of drugs, actually, like a lot of them. Antibiotics.
Some antibiotics.
Yes, some antibiotics. Not all.
Not all antibiotics.
Some antibiotics. Some anti-malarials.
Okay, like what?
So the anti-malarials, you see that, you mentioned something about people not, taking the anti-malarial drug during pregnancy.
The sulfadoxine, paracetamol.
So, very good. That will also fall under a broad category of drugs. Not just, you're not allowed to take that drug because it contains sulfur.
Okay.
So, people with G6PD also react to sulfur-containing drugs, substances in general. So, the reason why you're not allowed to take that drug, if you are G6PD deficient, is because of that reason. So, So they react to sulfur-containing drugs, right?
Okay.
So that's the main reason.
I'm coming. You also made mention of malaria in the beginning. If this deficiency makes me less predisposed in getting malaria, then it means that even if I don't take the drug, that means I'm somewhat protected from malaria. And well, maybe you said it's a theory.
Yes, it's not absolute.
It's not absolute,
but yes, it's true. You are less likely to get it compared to someone who doesn't. Just like the sickle cell, like I said.
Okay.
So yes, so even if you don't take it, you are less likely to suffer from malaria during pregnancy. But then again, even if you were going to suffer from malaria, weighing the risk of taking the drug, versus not taking it. There are other ways you can prevent or protect yourself from malaria, like sleeping in the mosquito nets. Do you understand? So if you are G6PD deficient, it is better for you to protect yourself through other means than risking and then taking the drug.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Okay. So what are some of the other popular drugs that you know of?
Okay. So the drugs, even with the drugs, there are certain, certain drugs that we know for sure that the moment you take that drug, you are going to have like a reaction to it.
Okay.
And there are certain drugs that we are not so sure whether. Some people get, some people don't get.
Okay.
So the truth is that as much as possible, I try not to mention specific drugs.
Okay.
So when I'm counseling patients, I tell them that, so there's usually a sheet, there is a list of drugs, I hand it over to them and tell them that these drugs, avoid them. But then, as much as possible, avoid over-the-counter medications. Okay. You understand? And whenever you go to the hospital, let them know that you are G6PD deficient. So that way, you are protected. The doctor seeing you will know that, I'm not supposed to give this drug, I'm not supposed to give that. It's better than like mentioning specific drugs. Just know your status and then avoid buying drugs outside. That's the best advice you can
Okay, so I've heard of this drug, quinine.
do. Okay.
Can people with G6PD take quinine?
So I already said that, there are some drugs that we are sure by all means. Okay, so here is a fun fact.
Okay, tell
So
me.
the drug Primaquine,
Okay.
G6PD was actually detected through Primaquine.
Oh,
Yeah, someone took it and got a reaction, and then we got G6PD out of that. So Primaquine, we know for sure that if you take Primaquine, you get a reaction to it. But quinine is one of those drugs that we are doubtful of the effect on G6PD.
but we are careful in the
Yes.
use.
So I will advise you not to take it. But there are other drugs you can take in
Take.
place of that drug.
Okay.
Do you understand? So quinine, yes, is implicated, but then the risk is not sure that once you take it, you get G6PD. So that's the
Okay.
role of quinine in G6PD.
Okay, so before we move on to the food and then the infections,
Okay.
you see, usually in our setting, what I've seen is that mostly it's just when women come to the hospital for antenatal clinic, that is when we do this routine G6PD testing to see if they have it or not. And it's more like I've barely seen a guy tell me that he is G6PD defect or something, but you usually see women say, oh, I'm this. So if I want to know my G6PD status and I'm not pregnant,
Okay.
how do I get to know?
Okay. So you can walk into the lab, or you can go to the hospital, okay, and just tell them that you are coming to screen for G6PD. Okay. They will take your blood sample, and then they will
Okay.
screen and let you know your status. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Okay, fine. So now we are done with the drugs. You said you mentioned any drug, but we should avoid over-the-counter medication. Okay. So let's move on to the other categories of predisposers.
Okay, so the next one is food.
Okay.
Right. So there's actually a variant of G6PD that we call favism, right?
Favism.
Yeah, or
Okay.
is it favavism?
You might say.
So it's associated with fava beans,
Okay.
right? So it's a type of bean. I don't know the local name for it. So when you take that beans, okay, you react to it.
Okay.
So, but it's not everyone with G6PD that will react to fava beans. It's the only food that I have come across that it is
Okay.
implicated.
Okay.
Okay. Some say soya beans,
I've also
And-
heard of some peanuts and
yes,
other
soya
things.
beans and other things, but it's basically fava beans.
Yes.
All other beans, they are good.
I think with me, what I would say is that if you take any food and you react to it, I mean, basically, you should just stay away from it.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of research hasn't really gotten into the food substances that we take and other things. So if you take something and then you react to it, then basically just stay away from it.
That's sound advice.
Yeah.
I have a teacher in school. He was like, we were talking about peptic ulcer,
Okay.
and it's not established that when you take pepper, you get. But some people say that when you take it, you get it.
Okay.
And he was like, so if you take it and you get it, why do you go and take it?
But we like pepper.
I mean, just so if you take something and
Okay.
you react to it,
Then
just
stop
just
taking.
stop taking it.
Okay, and then the last category,
Infections.
infections.
So, infections. What happens with infections is that your body tries to any infections at all, any infection at all.
Can trigger the
Yes,
whole...
it can trigger it. So what happens is that I mentioned glutathione, right? That helps fight against certain substances.
Yes.
I didn't mention the substance. Okay.
Please mention
Maybe
it now.
yes. So we have what we call reactive oxygen species.
Okay.
So they have a role in infections. When you have an infection, you produce more of it.
Okay.
Okay. So they help in fighting the infection.
Okay.
Right. So what happens is that when you get an infection and they are increased, now because you don't have the enzyme to produce that glutathione, which protects against that reactive oxygen species, an infection will predispose you to having hemolytic anemia,
Okay.
because those reactive oxygen species are free. They are now there without glutathione. Okay, so
Okay.
they now attack your red blood cells.
Wait,
So-
I thought the reactive oxygen species are supposed to do something good in my body.
Yes, so yes, they help with the infections.
So why would they now be causing problems?
Because, I already mentioned that other cells have other means of getting glutathione, but red blood cells don't have any other mean.
Okay.
The only means is through the G6PD route,
Okay.
right? So what happens is that other cells will be fine,
Okay.
Okay, the infection, fight against the infection, all right. But there's always a residual reactive oxygen species, right? There's always a residual, right? So those residual reactive oxygen species will still be available to attack your red blood cells.
Okay.
Do you get it?
Okay.
So, yeah, basically, I think that's it.
Okay. Okay. So now let's move on to G6PD defects in pregnant women. If a pregnant woman has G6PD deficiency or G6PD defect, what is the effect? What does it mean? And what harm can it be to the mother and then to the baby?
So people with G6PD have normal pregnancy.
Okay.
There isn't any cause of alarm, right? You can have a normal pregnancy. Okay. Usually what happens is that after they deliver, now their babies present with jaundice,
Okay.
which is yellowing of skin and then the eyes.
Okay.
So that is basically what to look out for.
Guys, I have a full video on neonatal jaundice, so I'm going to leave the link in the description box below so that you can have access to it. So now we know about the baby, the neonatal jaundice in the baby, and they're going to be watching the video I already did about it. What about the mother? Does it have any effects on the mother?
So, like I already mentioned, people with G6PD, almost all the time, they have normal pregnancies through to delivery, right? Everything is fine, okay? But just like people with G6PD who are not pregnant, just like anybody at all with G6PD, you are more likely to have hemolytic anemia, right? So, and anemia in pregnancy is a very huge topic. We can talk about that one like all day, right?
Okay, and it's dangerous too.
It's very dangerous, right? It predisposes you to a lot of things. So what I would say is that you should go for regular ANC, okay, and then make sure that whatever your healthcare professional instructs you or the counting they give you, make sure that you follow it. You make sure that you avoid over-the-counter medications. And then I think one important thing I didn't mention is camphor.
Yeah.
So one of the substances or drugs that we know for sure that when you come in contact with, you're going to have hemolysis, right? Because of this G6PD is camphor. So as much as possible, as a pregnant woman, avoid using camphor in your beddings. Right? We know that usually women use camphor.
Yeah, because of the smell.
Very good. We use camphor just to mask that smell. But then, as much as possible, you cannot use camphor. I'm sorry. You can't. You just cannot use camphor.
And so, because you might probably not know your status.
Exactly. So it's not advisable. I think it's routine that pregnant women are screened for G6PD.
Yes.
In Ghana, it's routine. So, well, you might know your status. So
what about your baby?
So you might not know the status of your baby. That's true.
And
so,
okay, fine. You continue.
So as much as possible. Okay. But if we can tell. For example, if you are G6PD food defect. Okay. And you give it to a male child. the child is G6PD food defect. Do you understand? I hope it makes sense because you already explained.
I was even asking in terms of the effect on my baby.
Okay. The effect of
like using the camphor, like I've given birth. I have G6PD.
Okay.
So right now you're telling me not to use it in pregnancy.
Okay.
So now I've given birth to. What about the effect on does it have effect on my baby too?
It's the same effect, right? It predisposes you to hemolysis.
So even my baby will also have the same effect.
Yes. So first of all, if you are G6PD, you yourself, you are not supposed to use it in the first place. Okay. And when you give birth, you should continue. Do not use it. Okay. So the baby will present with jaundice and all of that. So just do not use it, camphor, if you are G6PD deficient.
Okay. Dr. Emma, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you too for having me.
We are wrapping up. Do you have any last words for my audience?
Okay. Well, I would say thank you for watching Midwife's Diaries. And then Evelyn gives a lot of good information. Okay, so continue watching Midwife's Diaries. And then on today's topic, G6PD is not something you should be scared about, right? If you can go out and know your status, go out and do it, and then follow all the precautionary measures that we spoke about. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you picked one or two from it. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it and then also leave a comment in the comment section below. And please, if you've not subscribed to the channel, kindly do so. This is Midwife's Diary, and as you know, we are walking the talk of motherhood. Bye.